So, welcome to our new lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. What we do in this lecture series, we cover that day's newspaper. We cover the important news items of that day's newspaper. So, today's newspaper was, or today's day is June 25th, and we'll cover June 25th, Tuesday's newspaper, in a very short format within 20 minutes. So, your time doesn't get wasted. Plus, make this lecture series a part of your daily routine. Why? Well, if you have read today's newspaper, you will be revising those current affairs, those important current affairs. If you haven't read today's newspaper, well, you'll be covering that day's important news events. All right. So make this lecture series a part of your daily routine. All right. I won't waste much of your time and straight away jump to today's lecture. So, what are today's topics? Important topics from today. Now, today's topics are very important. Number one, you have seen that various public examinations are facing various scandals. They are facing the allegations of paper leak. They are facing allegations of negligence, right? NEET exam, UGC NET exam, right? So government has come out with a law, specific law to deal with public examinations that is known as Public Examination Act. We'll take a look at this. Then recently, DGP, Director General of Police of Jammu and Kashmir, said that the people who help militants, those are called enemy agents, should be dealt with a special law known as Enemy Agents Ordinance that is already in place in Jammu and Kashmir. So, what is this Enemy Agents Ordinance that deals with not militants but people who are supporting militants? So, we'll take a look at this law. Then recently, a news item again related to Jammu and Kashmir. Srinagar has become a fourth Indian city to get the status of Worldcraft City. It has become the fourth Indian city to get this status. So, what is this status all about? Why Srinagar was chosen? We'll talk about that. And recently, Ministry of Mines actually auctioned various blocks related to critical minerals. So, what are these critical minerals? How are they important? We'll talk about that. Okay, so straight away, let's start with first news item, that is Public Examination Act. Now, the center recently notified the rules required to operationalize or put in force the Public Examination Prevention of Unfair Means Act. This is the anti-cheating law, anti-paper leak law passed by Parliament in February, but it was passed in February. It was not in force. All right. Now it is being enforced. It is published in the Gazette, and the center has notified rules related to this act. Okay, though it was passed in February, but it is being enforced from now onwards. The rules related to Public Examination Act, remember this, are being framed or were notified by Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances, and Pensions. All right, so just remember this. Under which ministry this particular act comes? Well, it comes under Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances, and Pensions. Now, let's talk about what are the important features of this act. Okay. Now, this act actually lays down rules or parameters related to computer-based tests. So, look, there are two types of national level examinations. One are conducted in offline mode, like the NEET or UPSC examination. The others are conducted through computer-based tests. We call them computer-based tests, right? For example, CLAT or CAT, right? Now, government has actually notified various parameters with respect to computer-based tests. There are now key defined rules with respect to computer-based tests. So that was the purpose of this act. Plus, this act also calls for appointment of a central coordinator for public examination. So there will be this one person, one go-to person who will coordinate all the centers and all the issues related to public examinations. This act also gave the definition of public examination as to what qualify as public examinations. So section 2K, clause K of this act actually defines public examination, and the definition goes like this: any exam conducted by a public examination authority. Now, public examination authorities, what are public examination authorities? Well, all the authorities mentioned under the schedule of this act would be classified as public examination authority. So under the schedule of this act, UPSC is mentioned, SSC is mentioned, NTA is mentioned, right? So various organizations that conduct national level exams, these organizations are called public examination authorities, and they are mentioned in schedule of this act. So the examinations conducted by public examination authorities mentioned under schedule of this act would be categorized as public examination. So this is the definition of public examination mentioned in section 2K. All right. Section 3 actually lists 15 actions that can be classified as unfair means. So what are unfair means? Leaking of paper, cheating. So there are 15 such actions. All of these actions are written in section 3 of this act, and there are penalties associated with each and every action. All right. So all of this was mentioned. Okay. Now, why did India need this law? What was the need for this law? Well, the objective of the law, as per the act, look, before the introduction of every act, there is this document called Statement of Objects and Reasons. That's given along with every act, every law. All right. So within that statement of objects and reason, the reasons are mentioned as to why did the parliament enact this act. So as far as Public Examination Act is concerned, its statement of object and reasons were as following. The objective of the law is to bring greater transparency, fairness, credibility to public examination system and reassure the youth. Because in all of this, actually it's the youth that suffers, right? So that youth does not suffer, that was the main objective of this act. Their sincere and genuine efforts will be fairly rewarded and their future is safe. Plus, this new law also mentions various penalties. For example, a fine of up to 1 crore if you are found guilty utilizing unfair means, right? You can even be imprisoned up to 10 years. So there are certain very, very, very strong punishments associated with unfair means. All right. So this is the public examination law. All right. Now let's move on to second news item, which is the enemy agents ordinance. Now, what is this enemy agents ordinance? Look, recently the DGP of J&K Police, R.R. Swain, you can see him over here. He says that the basic reason why militancy is still there in J&K because there are certain people who assist militants. Not everyone in Jammu and Kashmir is a militant, but they have a lot of people around them that support them. They don't actively participate in the militancy operations, but they provide logistic support, they provide support, right? Now, to deter people from supporting militants, you need a strong punishment or a strong law that provides punishment. Now, J&K DGP, J&K Police DGP says that one such law in J&K exists, and that law is called Enemy Agents Ordinance. Therefore, people who are supporting militants in Jammu and Kashmir should be tried under Enemy Agents Ordinance. Now, why did he mention this particular act? Because this particular act is very strong, and we'll see how. Okay. So he said that people who are found assisting militants in their operation should be tried under Enemy Agents Ordinance of 2005. This law is way more stringent than UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Various terrorists are tried under UAPA, but this Enemy Agents Ordinance, which is only in J&K, okay, it's not anywhere else in India. This particular law is even stronger than UAPA. It contains a death sentence as a form of punishment. Life imprisonment is also there. Now, what are the features of this act? Okay, look, J&K Enemy Agents Ordinance was first issued in 1917. Okay, so the very first time that it was this law was issued in J&K, in the state of J&K, was in 1970. But in that time, during those days, J&K was under Dogra rule, Maharaja Hari Singh Dogra, right? Laws made during the Dogra rule were called ordinances. So that is why it is known as Enemy Agents Ordinance. Because back then, during Dogra rule, any law that was enacted was called ordinance. The law gives the definition of enemy agents, so it gives a proper definition of as to who are enemy agents. Okay, those who support them, those who provide them with weapons, those all these definitions are mentioned, and it also provides for the punishment to those assisting militants. So first of all, it gives out a certain set of criteria as to how police can identify enemy agents or people supporting militants. Then it also provides punishments related to certain offenses conducted by these enemy agents. The punishment can include a death sentence, it can include a rigorous imprisonment for life, it also includes a rigorous imprisonment for a term up to 10 years. So it is a very strong, some people might call it draconian law. All right. Now look, it was enacted in 1917. Okay. In 1947, India got independence and Dogra rule was lifted from J&K. J&K became a part of India through instrument of accession. Now, various laws, including Enemy Agents Ordinance, were continued in J&K even after 1947. Though they were amended a few times, like in 2005, this Enemy Agents Ordinance was amended, but they continued. All right. Then, in 2019, well, we revoked Article 370. And when we revoked Article 370, Center enacted J&K Reorganization Act. Reorganization Act. So under J&K Reorganization Act, various laws that were operational in J&K were repealed. But certain laws like Enemy Agents Ordinance were continued with. So there was this law called Ranbir Penal Code, right? That was repealed. But laws like Enemy Agents Ordinance, they were continued. That is why today in 2024, Enemy Agents Ordinance still exists. Now, why do we call this law very strong, stronger than even UAPA? Why is it strong? Well, it is because of the trials under this law. Look, you'll find it very strong. You'll yourself see why we call this law very strong. Trials are conducted by a special judge which is appointed by central government in consultation with Jammu and Kashmir High Court. Now look over here. The accused people, a person who is being tried under this law cannot have a lawyer. He cannot represent himself through a lawyer until and unless he takes the permission of the court. So if court grants him the permission, he can have a lawyer. If the court doesn't grant him permission, he cannot even have the facility of a lawyer. All right. Plus, if a decision is given against you, there is no provision for appeal against that decision, except one can get that decision reviewed. And that decision will be reviewed by a person chosen by government from judges of High Court, and the decision of that person shall be final. So you cannot appeal against the decision of this special court in High Court or in Supreme Court. No, there is no appeal system allowed. Only the decision can be reviewed, that too reviewed by a judge appointed by government. Okay. Plus, the details of the trial cannot be published openly. The ordinance also bars any disclosure or publication of the case tried under it. It will happen in secrecy. That is why this law is considered very dangerous, and the DGP of J&K Police says that only this law can deter these people who are supporting militants. Only a strong law can deter people who are acting as agents of militants. All right? Okay. Now let's move on to a little more optimistic news. That is, Srinagar becomes Worldcraft City. Now, Srinagar has become the fourth Indian city to be recognized as Worldcraft City. Now, who recognizes a particular city as Worldcraft City? Well, it is recognized by Worldcraft Council International. So remember this organization's name. Okay, which three other cities have been recognized as Worldcraft cities apart from Srinagar? As you've seen, I've said that Srinagar is the fourth Indian city. So Jaipur has been recognized, Mallapuram has been recognized, Mysore has been recognized previously as Worldcraft City. Srinagar was also recognized as UNESCO Creative City Network for Crafts and Folk Arts in 2021. So Srinagar has been getting a lot of international recognition. Recently in 2024, it got recognition from Worldcraft Council International. In 2021, it got recognition from UNESCO Creative City Network. And it got recognition for crafts and folk art only. All right. Kashmir has a lot of folk arts. Kashmir has a lot of crafts also, like pashmina shawls and all that stuff, right? So it is recognized for that. Now let's talk a bit about Worldcraft City. What is this entire initiative? So Worldcraft City initiative was launched in 2014. Remember this. Launched by whom? World Crafts Council International. Now, this WCCI is a Kuwait-based organization. Remember the country also, Kuwait-based. What is its purpose? It acknowledges the contribution of local authorities, craftspeople, and communities to culture, economic, and social development worldwide. WCC aims to establish a network of craft cities globally, promoting the principles of creative economy and preserving traditional crafts like pashmina shawl weaving in Kashmir. All right. So, yeah, that's about it. Now let's move on to the fourth news item, the last but not the least, that is critical minerals. Now, what are critical minerals? We'll talk about that. First of all, let's see why this critical minerals topic was in news. So recently, the Ministry of Mines launched the fourth tranche of critical minerals auction. Okay, it offered around 21 blocks across 14 states. So these blocks of critical minerals across 14 states were being auctioned, and who were participating? Which types of people were participating in these auctions? Well, people from mining industry. So all these private mining companies or public mining companies, they participated in these auctions. Government auctioned these blocks so that these mining industry people can mine these critical minerals, because India needs those critical minerals. In fact, government is so hell-bent on encouraging mining industry, encouraging people from mining industry to mine for critical minerals. It even has provided an incentive scheme of 20 crore. So whatever cost is being incurred in exploration of these mines, well, government will reimburse these miners 20 crore rupees. Okay. Now, what are critical minerals? That is important and that can be asked in prelims as well as in mains. Okay, what are critical minerals? So, critical minerals are those minerals that are essential for economic development and national security. So, those minerals which are very important for economic development in 21st century. As you guys all know, that the next century will be about electric vehicles, right? This century will be about electric vehicles. Now, electric vehicles run on batteries, right? Now, which type of batteries do electric vehicles mostly run on? They run on lithium ion batteries. So, in that case, lithium becomes a critical mineral because it supports the entire EV industry. Similarly, there is this critical mineral called cobalt. It is also very important for electronics industry, right? So these minerals are important for economic development as well as national security because various electronic weapons require lithium and cobalt. All right. The lack of availability of these minerals may lead to supply side risks, supply side shocks, and may hamper economic and national security. That is why these critical minerals are called critical in the first place. Now, different countries may have their own unique list of critical minerals, plus different countries may have their own unique definition of what minerals are critical for them. All right. For example, USA has declared 50 minerals as critical. Japan has declared 31. UK has declared 18. EU has 34. Canada has 31. India also has declared a particular list of critical minerals. You can see over here lithium, cobalt, nickel, vanadium, niobium, germanium, rhenium, right? These are critical minerals that are used in critical industries. And those critical industries are important for India's economic security as well as national security. All right. So these are critical minerals. Now, briefly, I'll also tell you about the applications of critical minerals. So, where are critical minerals used? Well, critical minerals, like I mentioned before, EV sector, they might be used in EV sector. They are used in EV sector. So transport industry, right? Electronics industry. In fact, everything around us is based on electronics. So it is a critical thing. Defense industry, aviation, etc. Okay. In fact, AI industry also requires GPUs, graphics processing units. Now, these graphics processing units require silicon in large quantity. So, silicon also becomes very important. All right. They also require various other things. All right. So, AI requires GPUs. GPUs are chips, these electronic chips that require various minerals that might also come from these critical minerals. All right. And with that, we conclude today's lecture. I hope it added some value to your preparation. Though I personally think that if you watch this lecture series regularly, if you make it a part of your daily routine, it'll definitely add value to your preparation. All right, let's conclude this session. I'll see you next time on Wednesday discussing June 26th newspaper. Thank you, everyone.